Forget the Paris of postcards and grand boulevards. We're going somewhere else. Somewhere darker, more crowded, more real. This is Paris in the mid-19th century. A city that runs on whispers and secrets. Where power isn't held in palaces, but in the stale, smoky air of its cafés and taverns. Imagine yourself walking through the narrow, winding streets just as dusk settles. The cobblestones are damp, still slick from the day's grime and rain. The sounds of the city are closing in the rattle of a distant cart, the cry of a street vendor packing up for the night. The air is thick with the smell of coal smoke, damp wool, and cooking fires. You're not heading for the opera or a grand salon. You're looking for a small, unassuming doorway, tucked between a butcher shop and a tenement building. A dim, flickering light spills out from a grimy window. This is where the real life of the city is happening. You push open a heavy wooden door, and the street noise is immediately muffled, replaced by a different kind of clamor. The room is small, the ceiling low and stained with soot. Dark wooden tables, their surfaces worn smooth by countless elbows and mugs, are packed tightly together. The air is dense, a fog of pipe and cigar smoke, illuminated by the hazy glow of oil lamps and early hissing gas fixtures that cast long, dancing shadows on the walls. It's loud in here, but it's an alert kind of loud. The clinking of glasses, the scraping of chairs on the wooden floor, the constant, low hum of conversation, it all blends into a single, living sound. Look around. This isn't a place for the wealthy or the leisurely. These are the men who make the city run. You see workers in their rough-spun clothes, their faces smudged with the day's labor. Clerks and small shopkeepers, their collars a little cleaner, are hunched over their drinks. Here and there, an intense young man with ink-stained fingers, a student, a writer, maybe a revolutionary, gestures emphatically as he speaks. They are all pressed close, shoulders nearly touching. Privacy is a luxury this place can't afford. But listen closely. That's what truly matters here. Conversations overlap, rise, and fall like a tide. A joke and a burst of laughter from one table can suddenly die down as the door opens and a new face appears. An unfamiliar presence shifts the entire dynamic of the room. Voices instinctively drop when a name is mentioned, a police official, a politician, a factory owner. Every table is a node in a network, a small island of information and influence. In this Paris, what you hear is more important than what you read. Newspapers existed, of course, but they were often expensive, censored, or days out of date. The real news, the news that mattered to the people in this room, traveled by word of mouth. It was a living, breathing thing, changing shape with every retelling. A rumor about a new tax, a story of a foreman's cruelty, a whisper about a secret political meeting. This information spread faster than any printing press could manage. It was shared over cheap wine or absinthe, passed from one table to the next, carried out the door and into the labyrinth of the city's streets. Truth was a fluid concept here. What mattered wasn't accuracy, but impact. A story's power came from who told it, who heard it, and who believed it. Reputations were built and destroyed in these rooms. A man's standing in his community could be decided by a well-placed word or a shared suspicion over a drink. This was a system built on memory and presence. To be here, at this table, was to be connected. To be absent was to be cut off, excluded from the city's informal intelligence network. Notice who isn't here. You see very few women. These spaces were almost exclusively male domains. A woman's presence would be an anomaly, immediately noted and questioned. The public world of information and debate was a man's world. This wasn't just a social custom. It was a fundamental part of how power and knowledge were structured. Access was everything. As the night wears on, the atmosphere begins to shift. The wine flows more freely, and the green glow of absinthe appears on more tables. The alcohol doesn't necessarily make the room more boisterous. Instead, it seems to sharpen the edges of the tension that was always just beneath the surface. Tongues are loosened, and words that were held back earlier in the evening now find their way out. Disagreements become more pointed, the silences between arguments more heavy, fights rarely break out. Physical violence is too risky, too likely to draw the attention of the authorities. But conflict is everywhere. You can feel it in a stare held a second too long, in the way a man turns his back on another, in the sudden quiet that falls over a table when a contentious subject is raised. These are disputes that will linger, carried out of the cafe and into the workshops and neighborhoods the next day. Grudges are formed, and alliances are tested, not with fists, but with whispers. The man sitting alone in the corner, nursing a single drink for an hour, isn't just resting. He's listening. He's piecing together fragments of conversation, observing who speaks to whom, gauging the mood of the room. He might be a police informant, or perhaps just a man trying to understand the currents of his city to survive. In here, listening is an act of power. What you overhear could be a business opportunity, a warning of danger, or a piece of political gossip that could change your perspective on everything. Every person in this room is both a broadcaster and a receiver in this dense, invisible network. Think about the stories being told. They aren't abstract intellectual debates. They are immediate and personal. A story about a landlord raising rents on the Rue Mouffetard, a rumor that the bakers are planning to strike. A shared account of police harassment in the Faubourg. This is information that directly affects lives. It's a collective processing of the city's anxieties, hopes, and resentments. These cafes and taverns are where a shared consciousness is forged, one conversation at a time. They are the crucibles where public opinion is born, not from editorials, but from the lived experiences of ordinary people. As the hour grows late, the crowd begins to thin. Men drain their glasses, nod to their companions, and pull on their coats, preparing to melt back into the dark streets. They leave, one by one, carrying the night's stories and tensions with them. The room gets quieter, but the echoes of the conversations seem to hang in the smoky air. The proprietor starts collecting glasses, his movements slow and methodical. He has heard more than anyone tonight, but his face reveals nothing. Stepping back out onto the damp cobblestones, the night feels different. The city is no longer just a collection of buildings and streets. It's a web of connections, of shared secrets and unspoken rules. You understand now that in this 19th century Paris, real power wasn't just found in the Tuileries Palace or the halls of government. It lived and breathed in hundreds of rooms, just like the one you left. It was found in a whisper across a sticky table, in a story repeated and embellished, in a moment of shared silence over a drink. This raw, unfiltered, and often dangerous exchange of words was the lifeblood of the city. This is how a city truly thinks. This is how we lived. Thanks for watching. If you found this glimpse into the hidden world of 19th century Paris compelling, please like this video and subscribe for more journeys into the past. See you next time.